Normally, I think Janice does this, and Janice, hi.
Hi.
Janice normally schedules when the select board appoints who they're going to appoint, but I know we did that a little bit, and I think we have a handful of vacancies, so we should try to move on those sooner than later, especially with planning board. Is that, kind of a judicial kind of committee. I'm just, for efficiency's sake, if we have a vacancy on the energy committee and Heather wants to be on it, we ought to make that happen with the select board and just match it up with whatever term that it is open. Is that Janice?
Yeah, well, we had submitted a bunch when they were going to review all of them, and those kind of got tabled. So I'll bring it back to Audra again and see.
Yeah.
If the board is ready to make committee appointments again.
Yeah.
I think it's a good idea. I mean, if we have people willing to do things for the town, we should just go ahead and authorize that. Now that we're starting to, set meetings on Zoom, we sort of got a way to do this now. So everything was tabled for a while, but let's move forward if we can.
Yeah, and I'll chat with Audra too. I mean, we need to do it for planning board, so we'll just try to do it for as many as we can. Okay.
Okay. Heather, thank you so much for stepping up and offering your expertise to the committee. We really appreciate having that, your willingness there. Brian, are you in the cellar or in a car or where are you?
Can't hear you.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
One way or another, Brian's here.
Looked like he was in the car. He's probably making a wise decision to figure out how best to do it, not while he's driving.
So Nancy, would you like to move to accept the minutes?
Yep, sure. I move to accept the minutes.
Anybody want to second that?
Second. Phil Gerard seconds.
Thank you again very much for these excellent minutes, Sarah. Appreciate it. Does anybody, did you all get the agenda that I sent ever so belatedly today?
Yes.
Okay, is there anything that you'd like me to tack on to the end of the agenda that isn't on here? It might be the charging stations. Do we have charging stations on here?
Do we have an update on that?
Yeah, well,
I left it
I think
up in the air at the last meeting.
Jeremy may be able to throw something in about that, so we'll see. Okay, I'll tack that on.
How about I mention that when I'm talking about everything else that I've got on?
Yeah, excellent. So we'll move on to you after. I just wanted to ask a sort of an overarching question. And maybe it's too broad a question about, it's a question for you, Jeremy, if you are aware of what the select board's primary goals are regarding energy. Are they pushing in particular fronts, or they have a particular emphasis that we'd like to know about?
Mark, I don't know if you want to, I want to defer this.
I'm always curious why she's asking you instead of me. Seeing as
I apologize. Yeah, sorry.
We are totally committed. Jeremy might mention, I asked, Bob and I talk about this stuff extensively. We usually meet every week to talk about what's working on. And I'm always asking him and Audra about what's going on. We're trying to do, we're as much interested in energy as we possibly can, which I think we've demonstrated. The thing I've been waiting for the longest, and I think we all have, is the Siemens report, which Audra has said she hopes to have for us by December 1st for the select board meeting. One of the big things on that is snowmaking at the Snow Bowl, which is our #1 energy user in the entire town. They've also discussed the lodge, which is a problem because until we know what we're going to do with the lodge, it doesn't make sense to put basically good money after bad if we're not going to keep that building. And then also the library is currently figuring out how they're going to deal with the report for them. So those are the sort of the things that are coming. And then Audra and I talked today about efficiency Camden. We talked about the streetlights, and as Jeremy goes through the specifics, I'll chime in where we are. But we're interested in everything. One of the sea level rise has been a big interest for us because that will affect, buildings, new buildings and things like that's not so much energy related, but this board has been tremendously active in terms of, working on energy, and I'm proud of that. So maybe
Thank
Jeremy,
you.
do you want to take it from here about anything else that?
Sure. I think that's a good point, and I sometimes I appreciate what Mark's saying, and I think they're being very active and they're very passionate and committed to this issue. I think sometimes it's hard to maybe realize that or see that's like come to fruition, because sometimes things happen so slowly and maybe not as quickly as a group or committee like the Energy Committee is focused on one thing. And why isn't what they're doing happening like right now? There's a lot to it. So maybe I'll just touch on, I think we're going to talk about efficiency Camden shortly, hopefully, Anita, because I will say that the select board does want to have a discussion about efficiency Camden at their next select board meeting. I think what they're hoping for is to have some sort of a draft, if you will, on what efficiency Camden looks like. And I can talk with you all now about that, or we can maybe go through my little list and then we can start talking about that, because again, I think the select board would like to talk about that next Tuesday. Maybe I'll just keep going through my little list. I do want to mention that I am meeting with Will Galloway from the Watershed School tomorrow on Zoom, along with one of the new teachers who's handling climate studies at Watershed School. If you remember, Watershed School was instrumental in the town, becoming a part of signing on to the Global Covenant of Mayors. We're one of the smallest towns probably of all the towns that have signed on to that. And it's, there's some, we have some work cut out for us to stay in line with that. But Watershed School, I think, understands that, and that the town itself cannot just do all of this. And it requires everybody and, every homeowner and business owner and everyone in Camden to think about these energy issues. So they have a program where a former Watershed student who's at, I believe, College of the Atlantic right now is coming back. I don't know if it's related to COVID, but I would assume it is. And they're moving into kind of she's looking at doing an internship with Watershed and the town on how we can kind of move forward the trajectory of the climate change, Global Covenant of Mayors, and how we can make that happen. So again, I'm meeting with Will tomorrow as well as the teacher. I did tell Will that I'm fully supportive of Watershed assisting the town in doing this. I mean, Watershed was, again, instrumental in getting the town on board and the select board on board with. What I told Will is I don't want to be, I can't have a big chunk of my time consumed with managing an intern. And making sure they're doing what they need to do and getting to these goals and all this. So Watershed appears to be committed to having staff time and a teacher fully engaged in this process and assisting that intern and assisting me in it. So I'm excited about that. There are things we can do, obviously, and the community needs to do. And I think this will build upon, hopefully, I did have an intern working on some comp plan work during Zoom, and I really feel bad for her. She was fantastic, but it all happened. She was coming on just as COVID was happening and as everyone was trying to figure out how to handle life in COVID. So that's when I had this intern. So she did a fair amount of work on comp plan work on how we can update our comp plan, and I'm going to continue working on that to address.
Sorry, which plan, Jeremy?
The comprehensive plan.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and so the 2017 comp plan, I mean, that needs to be updated every so often. Just updated it in 2017 and there is scant reference to climate change and sea level rise in the 2017 plan that was approved by voters. It's unfortunate. I mean, that was just not many years ago. But we have a plan to update the comp plan in certain areas to bring climate change and sea level rise into the comp plan, which does all sorts of things for us. It enables us to enact zoning ordinance amendments and land use regulations that, because when you do that, they have to be consistent with a comp plan or a land use plan for the municipality. And we don't have a whole lot of that in our comp plan. If we were to propose amendments to address amendments in our zoning ordinance that would work to address sea level and climate change issues, we really need to have that supported, be able to support those changes in our comp plan. And right now we don't have that. So we had a great intern from Bowdoin who worked on that with me this spring. She really was kind of an independent study, if you will, for her because of COVID, but she did some great stuff. We're going to continue that. I hope to continue that with the watershed intern. And I'm meeting with them tomorrow morning to have the conversations. But I'm going to start talking about this stuff with the planning board soon about the comp plan work and climate change.
So who is that intern that's working with you on the Global Covenant of Mayors, the watershed student?
Who is it?
Yeah.
I don't remember her name. We just started this conversation with Watershed last week. Will reached out to me.
Her name is Hallie.
Perfect. Thank you, Phil.
Yeah,
What's your name, Phil?
Hallie.
Hallie.
Yeah. Is it?
And again, I have not had the conversations with them, but I mean, we had an initial conversation. We'll get into it tomorrow.
Jeremy, if the comprehensive plan is updated, does it have to be voted on by the voters or does it get passed by the select board?
Voters.
Okay.
So my goal would be to try to do that for June.
Okay. Makes sense.
It's remarkable. I mean, town government is a wonderful thing, and select town manager, town meeting form of government has its pluses, but when it comes to trying to enact, some of these changes quickly, it's really not good for that. So there's quite a process to do this. So we're just going to move forward with it and try to get some changes to June. And hopefully we can have some ordinance amendments at the same time. So not only will be people voting on the comp plan, they'll be voting on some ordinance amendments, hopefully at the same time. And so Mark talked about Siemens and the charging stations. I was supposed to meet with Revision and Grid today at the site, and for some reason that did not play out. I had a kind of crazy hectic day. I've been working on COVID stuff, and I kind of got lost track of time, but I was not too far off to be there, and I reached out to CMP. He doesn't know what happened, so obviously something happened where there was a disconnection on meeting with the Revision folks and CMP out there. And that was to meet at the public safety lot to go over the infrastructure improvements that are needed for the level 2 car charging stations. Again, that they would fund. That is like the Efficiency Main program, which is we got to fund it. It's back. That said, Efficiency Main reached out last Friday and said our phase 3 or whatever it is of their car charging program is now out, and they're encouraging me to apply for that. So I'm applying. Well, you apply for both, but you only get one. You don't get to take from Efficiency Main and Avant Grid's program. It's part of the way that I think PUC and Efficiency Main have rolled this out.
Sarah, did you get the summary of that? Because my brain didn't summarize that. Sarah, if you got it, I'm fine with that.
I think so, yes. Now, I don't know stage 3. Are you about to tell us, Jeremy, what's the difference in stage 3?
No, that was their phase 3 of Efficiency Main. They had phase 1, which is a rollout of a certain type of incentive program. Phase 2 was another one, and this is phase 3. So this is just their funding cycle with Efficiency Main.
Jeremy,
Yes.
Does it change the level of the charger we get? Do we get the highest level charger in this new plan, perhaps?
I have to dive into it. I mean, I will say that both programs want to have smart, chargers. So I think I know that Avant Grid's program is just level 2. They're not
Right.
going to the other level of chargers. I do know that, and that's the one that Revision is working on with CMP. Revision, as I understand, is the sole source provider for that program. So you do get what you get, but you have some level of options within that. As long as they're level 2, they need them to be grid connected smart chargers. Beyond that, I can't tell you, Mark. You can't get the 3 that you guys were asking for the last time. That does not work under their program.
Okay.
Whether it works under Efficiency Maine, it may, and I just haven't. I just got that notice last Friday that they opened. So.
I looked at that earlier, and I think it's quite likely the state, I sort of am going by memory, that it's quite likely the stage 3 is for the next level, the rapid charger, which would be
Jeremy,
much better if it is.
I think it's important to know that the Efficiency Maine program it's still a rebate program. You fund it, you pay for it, and you get money back. As opposed to the CMP program, they pay for certain infrastructure to make ready, and we just plug it in. So both, and it's just how you get there.
Avant Grid is the CMP program?
Yes.
Oh,
well, my understanding is that it's the same level chargers and the state's running both programs in order to see which one creates better uptake. Basically to figure out which kind of program to then run at a larger scale, whether a rebate program or just you don't get to choose much, but it's free upfront program through the utility. So I think it's the same equipment for both, but I'm not positive. Jeremy, just out of curiosity, is it Barry from Revision who you're working with or someone else?
Yeah, Barry's been the initial
Okay.
guy, and then it went to a couple other people. Barry obviously wasn't going to meet me on site. I think it was a couple other folks, and for some reason it just didn't happen. I'm sure it'll happen. I don't know what happened.
Okay.
Great day to be out doing a site visit.
Have
So-
you identified a specific location? I think there was mention of the parking lot at the Public Safety Building. Is there a specific location there that you've identified?
I have some ideas in my mind, but really, again, they're paying for the make ready costs. So I think it really depends on, what panel we're tying into, just all the infrastructure costs that they're willing to pay for. If this was a brand new site in the middle of nowhere and it needed a new transformer, needed a new service panel, needed all this, I think it would be a little different than where we're sitting right now. So I think what we have out there is going to dictate where they really want to see it, but we can certainly tell them where we'd like it. Just costs might be different.
I got up the Efficiency Maine website, and they say relative to phase 3, extend Maine's EV fast charging network, Efficiency Maine will release an RFP this summer to help fund additional DC fast charging stations in the state.
Yeah,
I would read that as being the next level faster, but they haven't gotten.
I hear you. And that's what I've been waiting for them to release all summer. So,
Yeah.
and it's now November, mid-November, end of November, and it just opened. So I don't even think it's technically released yet. So I hear what Heather's saying, and I hear what you're saying. I think they might have scaled it back and changed the program a little bit from what's on the website currently.
Is there some reason why we're only talking about one site for this instead of several sites in town? Is it the cost or what?
Money.
Money, okay.
I mean, I don't see any other, any other thing that would, it's a money issue, I think. Yeah. anything else? I mean, I think that's all I have. And maybe we want to start talking about Efficiency Camden, because I will say the select board and Audra would like to chat about it. And Brian and Anita and I have had many conversations on this, and I think everyone at least knows the idea. And from my perspective, very simply, the idea would be that this is really, it's not about it. This is not, I look at this, and I think you all maybe got there too last time we had this conversation, that this is this is an education program about trying to educate the community that energy efficiency is important, and you have a role, everyone has a role in it, and what people can do in their own homes and in their own daily lives to make your world, your home, your cars more efficient for the obvious reasons. And then part of that is making people aware of all of the Efficiency Maine programs and rebates that are out there. On top of that, or I think secondarily to that, is that the town, and I don't think this should be the focus of it, because we don't have a lot of low to moderate income folks in Camden, and we have some trust funds that are available, and I think the town is willing to spend, I think initially, I think we're talking $40,000 or so, Mark, if that's right. I believe that's the number I got from Audra, of trust funds to.
Total or annually or what?
I just had a conversation with Audra about this a little while ago in preparation for this. And basically she said what she would, to simplify it, what she would like to see, because we'd like to do something, not, in addition to the make people aware. And I think maybe to simplify it, she said, we don't know what the funds are. She said, if you could, the Energy Committee could pick a number, say, and her suggestion was $50,000, and figure out what could be done, who would be available to make use of the program, and just put some ground rules together. That would be great. A couple of things she suggested is the trust funds say for the needy poor, but we don't have to take that at the face value of, there are a lot of people that, are living on the edge, even though they make a bunch of money, but they're living on the edge right now. It's really tough. My suggestion, if I were to make a suggestion, if I was sitting up in our meetings, I would say one of the things I've done through Brian is put window cozies in my house that have made a tremendous difference. It's simple, it's easy. So my suggestion, if we want to try a simple physical program in addition to education, is figure out how many window cozies could we get for $50,000, and what level of people could we supply them to, could apply for them. And that's as simple as Audra said. That's as simple. She can take that to the trust fund committee right away.
When you say window cozies, you mean those long kind of sausagey looking stuffed things that you put next to your windows, or what?
No. Window cozy is it's sort of like a plastic storm window that fits on the inside. I've gotten a number of them from Brian over the years, and they're great. It makes a huge difference. It's something simple we can do instead of construction. So maybe as a suggestion is, how many can we get for that amount of money, and who can apply for it? Figure out who's available to apply for it so we could use up those funds. I think that would be very helpful. Because then we could actually
like your
do
input.
something right away.
Yeah. Brian, I'd like your input on what, whether a blower door test is something that could fit into this program, and what that might cost per house, if anything, and what you think, whether you would agree with Mark that warm windows treatment is the best first thing to do. Yeah, Jeremy, after Brian's response.
Yeah. Am I up now? Is that right? Can you hear me?
We can hear you.
Okay. So, Mark, I agree with you in that thermal window inserts or window cozies, they're very simple, and they can be deployed as rapidly as they can be fabricated. There's only one person that's currently fabricating them in, as far as I know, in the county, and so the capacity may be an issue. I don't think. I mean, it would take years to make $50,000 worth of cozies. So I don't think you can disperse $50,000 that way. I think you could disperse maybe $5,000 that way and cover a lot of, as many windows as you could possibly cover in a year, for example, or in a season, a 6-month season or something. I think there's, what we had talked about at various points was, maybe it's a doubling of the efficiency main incentives. So we would broaden the, not the appeal so much, but the application of those funds. Efficiency Main just last week, I think it was, adjusted their low-income criteria because it's so low, very few people qualify. And I think that's an area where if we could, Jeremy and Anita and I were talking about, maybe it's a couple of 100% of the free lunch program, which is the poverty line, because really up here, poverty line is like $26,000 for a family of 4. Well, if you're only making $26,000, you don't own your own house. You can't possibly own a house. So, we can't fix that house because it doesn't exist. So I think we're going to need to look at some larger things. And to Anita's point about blower door testing, that all makes sense if it's going to change or influence what air sealing might be done in the house. As a practitioner in the industry, we rarely find that the blower door number directs us to a location to do air sealing. It just is a way to quantify the benefit of it. So I'm not convinced that going out and, hiring people to do hundreds of blower door tests necessarily saves anybody any energy. But it would expend the funds. I'd rather see them go towards actually making improvements in the houses, and that would be things like doing air sealing work, doing insulation work. And I think it's possible that over the course of a year, that $50,000 could be expended if there was a portion towards window cozies and a portion towards other demand reduction. And some of it could even be to further incentivize, heat pumps, although those incentives right now are very generous and doubled by Efficiency Main for the lowest income clients. So again, maybe we could increase that limit from 130% of the poverty line to 300 or 400% of the poverty line, because that might capture us, 50 houses in Camden. And I think that's what we're going to need to do, is we're going to need to have a target of 50 or 100 homes to be able to spend, make an effective $50,000 investment.
Jeremy?
Good points, Brian. I tend to agree with you, Mark, and I agree with you on the window inserts. I have them in my house. Window dressers made them for me. And it's a volunteer thing or a money thing. You can go down and help them make them. And they come and they size them up in your house. They figure out what you need, how big each window is. No window's the same. So they, do that. They're not operating right now due to COVID. And I think the guy who Brian's referring to is the gentleman who makes them and helps them with them. I have a pretty good working relationship with the woman, the new executive director over at Window Dressers. I certainly think that it's a great idea to get the window dressers involved to help those that need them. And I think the town could use, like Brian's saying, some of that funds to help pay for that. I didn't even pay for them in my house. I brought the people that were working a crock pot of pulled pork, and rolls and coleslaw that were making them, and they absolutely loved that. They preferred that more than the money I was sending them, because there was a whole crew working to make them, and then they brought them to my house. So I think the town overall could really help, and we could get window dressers involved and maybe do, like, once things move beyond COVID, start building them in Camden, helping and get a real commitment to doing that in locally, and help people that need them year in and year out, even those that don't qualify for some of these programs. As far as the Efficiency Maine, what we have always kind of been traditionally talking about is trying to do incentivize people by doubling, if you will, the incentives that the state provides. I went through this with Brian in my home up here in Belfast. They did the whole energy audit. They looked at my air sealing. They gave me the whole report, what my issues were. I ended up getting financing and did the air sealing, did the insulation. It's paying dividends for me. I'd like to do that with everyone else in Camden that doesn't have the ability to do that. It was a stretch for me to do it. I got a loan through the National Energy Home Improvement Loan Fund to do that. And Brian and firms like him can guide people to that. And part of this would be, not only can people still do that, if you're qualified in Camden and you are, say, 400% of the poverty line, Camden is going to double that incentive that the state's giving you, so that in essence, the loan that I have to take out or that homeowner is going to have to take out is going to be less. And that helps them in the long run. In addition, one thing we can do, and we've talked about this, is that home energy audit. We can assist by doing those, helping people do those. And I know firms like Brian's, and I spoke with Brian. Brian's obviously been on board and he's supportive of this program. Evergreen, Penobscot Home Performance up in Bucksport and Belfast, they're on board. They're on board to plug this thing that they're going to do for Camden, that we're going to do, try to get that out on their social media. I've spoke with the Breathable Home out of Augusta. They're on board. They're willing to help and participate in as much as they can. I don't see this as sole sourcing like CMP did with Revision for the installation of chargers, or that Rockland did with, I think, Penobscot Home Performance with Rockland. They worked with, I think, North Haven. They worked with Islesboro. They had kind of a weatherized program. What I envision is people have the ability, after you folks roll out an education type of program and get the word out that people should really start doing this, take advantage of these programs, that will then, will fund that work. Again, incentivizing people and getting people like Brian's firm, Penobscot Home Improvements, Breathable Home, any other firm that's out there, that anyone that's a qualified installer under Efficiency Maine program could assist a homeowner to do this. You don't have to work with Evergreen. You don't have to work with Penobscot, but you could sign up one of the contractors that meets the state's requirements that's on their list. They walk people through, if you haven't done this, they walk you through the process when you get your energy audit done. They show you which type of improvements you need, which type of incentives are out there, what type of financing is out there. And then in Camden, and they're going to do this in Camden, and if you qualify, not only will you get that financing, which is at a great rate, the Efficiency Maine rebates, you'll also get, again, if you qualify, the Camden rebate, which would in essence double what the state is incentivizing people with. That's how I envision this. That's kind of, I think, but where Anita and Brian have been, and I think the window inserts is a great piece that we can kind of work within this. And I think that $40,000 or $50,000 is an initial fund. I think today, and I've been honest to Anita and Brian about this, if somebody that did not have a lot of wherewithal right now in Camden had a boiler that was a problem, had insulation that was a problem, and they came to the town and said, hey, this is hard for us. Got a family trying to make this work. My boiler's going. We have no insulation in our house. It's not sealed. The town would assist those folks today. I'm confident with those trust funds. I mean, we help people that don't have a lot of wherewithal put a septic system in. we do that kind of work. I mean, the town is committed to making these kind of big picture societal improvements. And I think we're just trying to get the word out there that we need to, again, educate everyone, tell them what the programs are available out there. And oh, by the way, the town, not only will Efficiency Maine give you a rebate or $3,000 back for this or whatever, the town will give you an additional $3,000 back if you qualify.
Okay, Jeremy, this
Where we
sounds
were
great.
going.
It sounds like basically an educational role that we would play. And what I would like to know is what do you, I get what you are aiming for, but what do you envision as the process in terms of putting together the write-up and having presumably either you or the select board or both review it? I mean, I want to know the specifics of the
Sure.
process.
Sure.
So
So I
that we
think
can see that.
for next Tuesday, and again, the select board meeting's next Tuesday, I think, Anita, I think I'd like you to be there, probably, just to explain kind of what we're thinking, and I can help. But I don't imagine next Tuesday is going to be a final draft of what we've got. But I think what I envision is an educational role, and not get too worried about kind of the process, because this is, and I've said this, I've had many conversations with, I think his name's Scott Kessler. He's a representative out of South Portland, who's a home energy guy. I've had this conversation with Brian Evergreen Home, and then Penobscot Home Performance, Breathable Home, and other people that are doing this work that have been involved in kind of sole source, weatherize Rockland or weatherize Ellsworth or weatherize Bangor, where the communities generally used CDBG funds oftentimes because they qualify for those funds, to create a program. And what I don't envision is a program, because this is, I don't think we should sole source with any firm. This is just, the town is just getting it out there that we have some funds to help those that need it. And number one, we all need to do our part on energy efficiency, making our homes healthier and, better for the environment. And here's some incentives that are out there. And again, oh, by the way, if you meet some eligibility requirements, it's really about figuring out, I think that's what Mark and Brian, we need to kind of figure out, is what is that level, that 400% of poverty. I think that's probably right. But that's what we really need. I don't want to, it's not a process, because again, I think today, if 5 people came in the door that were needy and had issues with their home and they wanted to make energy improvements to their home and they qualified for trust funds for the needy, the town would say, there's a trust fund committee that reviews those, and they would review it and they'd probably fund at least a certain portion of that. So in essence, we're asking them to do the same thing, only providing incentive to people by, you got to go through this program, you got to work with a qualified contractor that can help you get your Efficiency Maine rebates and get your financing if you need it. But they'll also do the paperwork and send it to the town and say, yes, see, they got Efficiency Maine rebate. They've got this work's been done. Can we get some incentive? And we just take that through the process. That said, if 100 needy folks in Camden come through and go through this process, and all of a sudden at one point, certain dollar amounts been used up for that period, it's been used up, and we're going to have to say, unfortunately, we can't. But I think overall, I don't envision that happening. Audra's talking about an initial dollar amount, which is in the ballpark of what Mark and I were talking about. That's a good chunk of money to start something and get the word out. And if it's successful, I mean, I could envision the trust fund committee. I don't ever want to say what any committee or any board does, but if it's successful and it's having an impact, and we're getting those, making our money in our investments, the trust funds are, why not put it to a good use? I mean, it's there for the needy. And I could envision the town continuing it year after year. I don't know, Brian, Anita, does that make sense to you, what we've been talking about?
I just, let's see, okay. I've just been wanting to say that Eric Evans
has been making what you call he calls window cozies. I call them window inserts to be sort of, and he makes them with the help of people who read them, measures them all very precisely. And I don't know if you still want to go on doing that, but there's a source of help about the window insert.
So Jeremy, I would imagine that if we create an informational bulletin, what we would need to do is to create a list of expertise, entities and organizations and companies that provide whatever relevant services and their contact information. And do we just leave it at that, or, you know, along with a list of, you could do this, you could do that, try calling this person, try calling that company? Is that what you have in mind?
I don't think that we want to go down the road of encouraging people to call certain companies. I have a work in a municipality.
I want them to have an action plan that they can actually do. I don't want it too vague.
I understand that. I mean, Brian does this for a living, right? He gets the word out about the incentives that are out there because it incentivizes himself and his firm every time they do this. And, you know, I think if we can just convey to people the need for energy improvements, the need, why people are doing it, why the incentives are what they are. I mean, there's some pretty significant incentives out there, and then why the town is investing in these properties too. I think that's what we need to do. We need to convey that there is a list of, I mean, there's this big long list of contractors that do all this work. Everyone is free to call any one of those contractors, any one of them.
But you're suggesting that we not have a list?
I'm suggesting you not really have a list, but I will say, I mean, I think and maybe we can talk about this with Evergreen and Penobscot and Breathable Home, because I think in talking with all of them, I think they all know each other. They all work well together. And I mean, those are three firms that have responded back to me and said with excitement about this type of program. But they're also understand and appreciate that we're not sole sourcing something like this to a certain company. So they will do everything they can to help people in Camden get these incentives and help with educating and getting the word out that this is happening in Camden, but they do not want to be the only people that are doing this work. There are people that have responded to me. They are ready to engage with their PR and their marketing in Camden, that this is what they can do for you. And I don't want to create a program.
Right.
But
Heather?
how many of
I
these?
just want to note, there's only 5. There are only 5.
Okay.
If
So
you
that makes sense.
If you go to the Efficiency Maine vendor website and look at the firms that are providing the sort of base level of services, which is the energy assessment and air sealing, and I just put in the zip code and a 25-mile radius. And there's Evergreen, Penobscot Home Performance, Build Green Maine, Osher Environment Systems in Brooksville, and Energy Solutions of Maine in Knox. And that's it, within 25 miles. If you make it 50 miles, I think it jumped up to maybe 7 instead of
So we
5.
can refer them to that, right, Jeremy?
Yeah, yes. I mean, you know, yeah. And I mean, I appreciate it, Heather. We can refer them to that. They got to go to the list, right? Because in order to get any incentive, you've got to use someone on that list.
And I just think it's important that, like, actually having to go to the vendor website and find a vendor via the online search is a barrier for
Right.
people. And
That's
I think
what I'm worried
being
about.
able to give them the list of 5 qualified vendors within 25 miles who do provide this service, if that removes a barrier for anybody, then it seems like it's a worthwhile service.
I think that's a good point, and maybe there's a way to wordsmith that, because I had worked in a municipality prior where we had done something not over energy, but it was other work, and we had identified a handful of contractors that could do X, Y, and Z for you, and lo and behold, we got sued because we did not include X, Y, and Z firm in that list, and they won. and the town had to pay out, a settlement to that firm, that company. So I get you, and I think probably wordsmithing it in a way that per the Efficiency Main's website, within companies within 50, I'd go 50 miles and not 25. I mean, I did the 25, I did the 5. I will tell you, I did the 25, and out of the firms that called me back, I didn't call Brian. Sorry, Brian. But Evergreen was the only firm that called me back, or Penobscot was the only firm that called me back within 25. When I made it go bigger, I had more callbacks. So, it's not apples to apples on that list. And I'm sure some of these guys that do this and gals that do this work would say it's not apples to apples on that list. So
Jeremy, can I interrupt for a second? We're getting way into the weeds in terms of stuff like this. I think what we need to do, if we're going to do something, we need to keep it simple. Because when you look at the people that need the help, very often they're elderly, they don't have a lot of money, they're not capable sometimes of dealing with difficult, complex programs. I think what we need to do is, if you need a list of things to help with your heat or energy, you can apply here, and then you can use, you can reach out to these people to help you do it, and we will pay for it. We need a simple program. When we get really caught up in all the different things, that's why I suggested window cozies and $50,000. How many do we have available? Here's what's available, do it. Because we're making this so complex. This has been going on for months. We're making it too complex to get it done.
Mark, it has been going on for months in my estimation, because we don't have, I feel that I haven't had clarity from the town of Camden with regard to what we can say Camden is willing to do. And that's the bottom line. There's no sense saying Camden can help you, period. I think we need to not only get a sense of what Camden is willing to do and what the program is from the Camden direction, but also, and almost more importantly, whom should they call? Whom should they work with?
Right.
Is that Jeremy? Does Jeremy have time and bandwidth? Is
No.
that Audra? Does
No.
she have the
That's-
bandwidth?
And
Who has the
Anita,
bandwidth to handle it?
I said the same thing. I talked to Audra before the last meeting, and I said the same thing there. Take $50,000 and figure out what we can do with it and who can do it. We need
Mark,
somebody,
Mark,
wait, let me finish, please. We need somebody, not in a Zoom meeting like this, because nothing ever gets done. We need somebody to take charge and say, I will make a list. I'll find out, how many things we can do. We need to assign some stuff so that we have a list and we have all this stuff.
That's
We
fine.
keep going
I
back and
feel-
forth and discussing.
I feel comfortable with our moving forward with that. What I would really like to know is if they want to call and find out what Camden can do for them, whom do they call?
Hmm.
Me,
They call you, Jeremy. So
He's
you're willing
fine.
to handle-
yes.
you're willing
But
to
I
handle-
think that the town can figure that out once we have a program, because then Audra and the trust committee can make a decision, because it may be the trust committee they go to. They go to Janice is the one that fields the calls for the needy poor now. Maybe it's her, but we just need the program. This is, if
Right.
you want window cozies for your window and whatever else, 2-3 things that Brian can suggest maybe are simple things that we can do that don't cost a lot of money.
What
that we're
I'm
able to
hoping is that we can draft something that we bring before the select board that will have the basics of the information that at this point we want to get across to a consumer.
Just one question. Is it absolutely the case, even for window cozies, even for advice that's more like free, that there's nothing we can do if you don't own your own house?
I didn't understand what you said.
Sure.
Sarah.
Sarah, your voice is really muffled. It's really hard to
Oh.
understand.
The question is there nothing that can be done if people don't own their own homes, like zero?
That's an important question. Jeremy?
No, I would think we We could help people do window cozies in a rental home.
Okay, that's what,
Those are no physical improvements to your house needed or to the building. Those just get stuck on the inside of the windows. We could do that. It's not a problem.
I'd like to make a suggestion here that in terms of reaching out to the public, which I think is the most important part of this, letting people know what's available, that we develop some kind of a brochure and a group of programs at the library talking about the whole problem of home efficiency, home energy efficiency, beginning with very simple things like the window cozies and the switching out to LED light bulbs, and just making a progression through that right up to putting solar panels on your house. And kind of giving people an idea of what is there, what's available, what are the simple things you can do, and what are the complex things, and what kind of support is available for the complex and expensive things. And to me, it's a less aggressive way of approaching this. It's not making any judgments about people's income levels or sophistication levels. It's just saying, here we start with number 1, change to LED light bulbs. Number 2, get your window cozies, and go on up.
I think that sounds nice, but if I understood, Jeremy, what you said at the beginning was to do exactly what Nancy just outlined, but then at the bottom say, and if you have financial problems or
Right.
to qualify, or however we want to say it, then we can also provide funding assistance. Is that correct? Yeah, that's what so.
So
Yeah.
all we have to do is develop that little brochure, huh?
Right. So
Well, give me the list, I'll write the brochure. I mean, it's not hard. Just give me
Sarah,
the list. What do you want to say?
Brian has his hand up.
Brian,
Yeah, I think I would suggest that, I like Mark's idea. We can start with, free window cozies, for anybody. If we can either income qualify it or not. I think it perhaps makes sense to income qualify.
We need to do some income qualifying,
Yeah.
but it
so
doesn't
we-
have to
so
be.
If we,
Go ahead.
go ahead, Mark.
I was just gonna say, it doesn't have to be what we mostly take is what we used to consider needy poor. But they're just asked, that's
Right.
the one thing Audra asked for. Come up with a financial level and come up with a program that we can do and it can do quickly.
So I think we can go through the town housing data, and you can do it. One of the ways that Efficiency Maine qualifies it is based on what's the total value of the property that you have. Right now, their limit, I think, is $120,000 or $130,000 in several counties, including Knox County. Maybe we look and double that and say, hey, if your house is worth $260,000 or less on the town books, you would qualify. And let's see, maybe that's only 50 houses. And then we know what our target is. And I think, to Heather's point, we do need to make this very simple, and we need to make it compelling. And I think the good news is that probably every one of us on the Zoom has done work in their own houses or had someone do it. So we can all speak to that with homeowners. And so a big part of it is helping them to feel like it's possible for them. And if any of the qualified installers are aware of it, trust me, Penobscot, Evergreen, Bo over at Breathable Home, whomever, we're going to keep in mind, because this is a way for us to further help our customers. So we may market to those folks as well. But I think it is important to like Sarah's point, have some public programming. And if we can come up with a list, which is public knowledge of who these people are, maybe someone knows someone and can go and knock on the door and say, hey, I'm on the Energy Committee. We just developed a new program. I'd love to tell you about it. I personally I would love to be that person, but I don't feel like I can be that person because it would be seen as a conflict of interest as a business owner. So I'm not the one to be speaking as a member of the Energy Committee to individuals for that reason. And I don't think anyone should be recommending me because I'm on the Energy Committee either, or my firm. But, you know, we do need to get that initial contact, you know, with whomever so that someone can get in there and find out what needs to be done. And then we can, you know, the vendors can apply the program effectively. Don't believe me, there'll be no, you know, we'll all figure that out quite quickly. If we can just figure out what that threshold amount is, and what that catchment is in terms of the, you know, how many homes. I mean, we'll do our research and we may send a flyer out to those folks telling them about it.
Oh, listen
go?
to this, everybody. President Trump authorized his government to begin the transition to President-elect Joe Biden's administration.
All right.
Sorry, but it just came in from the New York Times.
That's
Go ahead,
important.
we'll talk about
Thank you.
energy.
Thank you.
We can still believe in miracles.
Yes.
So I have to say I was, having been following along with this, but much less involved, I was quite interested in Mark's idea in the early part of this meeting because it's something that those window inserts can be very helpful. They're relatively straightforward. There are a lot of things that make them seem like a good idea. And I don't know enough about, I mean, I don't know anything really about this fund and how flexible they might be. But what if, would it be possible to simply start by saying that the town will provide $10,000 or $5,000 worth of these windows to people and just let people enroll? Because I think that there will be a fairly self-limiting aspect to these anyway, because a lot of people won't want to have them in their home. They don't like the idea. People who are very proud of their homes or who don't feel the pinch of the cold or the pinch of the need to buy oil, it may be a little bit the product might be self-selecting to a certain extent. And I wonder if there's enough flexibility with the funds that something like that would be possible. In other words, earmarking $5,000 for these windows and just saying, look, these are available until the funds run out. Let's hear from people from Camden. Who wants to have them?
I think that's a really good idea. And I think you're right about the self-limiting. If somebody can put that together and make it as a presentation for the board, I think that may be a good way to go.
And then, I don't know whether they're, in small towns, sometimes they have those little signboards in front of the town office. That wouldn't work in Camden, but something pretty straightforward as far as getting that information out there. I don't know, I know there's always issues with inserts and mailers. A lot of towns have that concerns about when that is appropriate, and most of the time it's not. But some way of getting the news out is the other. It's a non-trivial question. But so what you're asking for, Mark, is that someone would make that as a proposal to the planning board, or what? Who?
You can bring it to the select board, and then it has to go to the trust fund committee, and Audra can take to them, and maybe we can tweak it a little bit so it'll pass whatever legalities have to deal with that. But if somebody could bring it to the select board next Tuesday, then we can say, this sounds good. This is a way to start a program. And right now in winter, as it's getting colder, and we can try and get something done right away. Because that's what I'd like to see is let's move, let's do something. This committee has been so good about, we have a solar farm because of this committee. We have our streetlights because of this committee. It all started there, and because took charge and said, let's just do it. So yeah, if somebody can make a presentation, then we can deal with the legalities and stuff like that. We just need something to go before the board and say, hey, here's an idea. Can we do this? And we can try and move it forward.
Okay,
Start with something simple that will make a difference. That's
I-
my only concern is when it gets complicated, people don't have time to deal with it. You know, they need
So Mark
something.
is moving that everybody, Jeremy, go ahead.
Well, I just want to say, I appreciate everything here. So maybe we can do this in phase 1 and phase 2. I think maybe a good way to do this. Imagine phase 1 is getting this out. But first we need to talk to Eric Evans, who's in town, and the window dressers, because again, they make them, at least window dressers, as a group of volunteers make these. They meet, they make them. They have not made any of these all since COVID started. Eric Evans may be making them, but is he making them by himself? And if he's making them by himself, how many can he make? Right? We can figure that out tomorrow before I think we go to the select board and say, we're going to spend 5,000 on window dressers. We're going to
There's
find,
nobody to do it.
I can make you 20 in the next month.
Yeah, well, let me ask a question really quick, Brian, or Heather, it's you guys work for energy companies. Is there something else? If we had another $5,000 for a something or other, is there something else that can be that simple as well? You know, do you want a window cozy? Do you want a, you know, something? What other options do we have?
I mean, if it
Heather,
were
do you
me,
have-
I
go
would
ahead.
pick, I mean, Brian is obviously the professional in the efficiency space, but based on my own personal experience working with multiple firms, including Evergreen, is the programming we found most helpful with community members on the islands and remote coastal communities when I was at Island Institute were the window building workshops, like we've been talking about, which were extremely popular and really helpful when you can do a community build, which it looks like we could sign up for with window dressers TBD on when it could actually be scheduled in 2021. But as an energy committee, if we were willing to sort of sponsor and help organize, you know, having people get together and do that, that sort of adds a layer of awareness raising and community building around just
I'm
getting
sorry,
the
who
windows.
was this you're talking about doing it, Heather? I don't know the company. So could you tell me, you said talk to CBB or something? No, I don't know what's the matter with my microphone. Talk to CBB or something, did you say? I couldn't understand.
TBD, to be determined.
Sorry.
Oh,
Sorry,
talk
right
to
now, yeah,
somebody.
right. Sorry about that. So right now on the window dressers website, they have, you know, a whole bunch of communities where they say they're going to have window building community build workshops, but the date is to be determined because they've shut operations for 2020. So presumably starting in 2021, they're going to schedule these community builds as soon as they can. I would guess Jeremy knows, the executive director, so he may know more information. The other thing I was going to say, besides the window inserts, which I'm a huge fan of, I hugely support moving forward with a phase 1 program on window inserts. The other cheaper items on the efficiency main list would be the ones that, to me, it would make the most sense to start with. And so the energy audit and air sealing, which is a $400 rebate. And generally, I think that means that the homeowner often doesn't have to pay anything or pays $50 or $100. So in other words, the efficiency main rebate covers almost the whole cost. And so if the town of Camden just added a little bit more, then that initial energy audit and the air sealing work. So they actually, you know, the contractor, while they're there doing the blower door test, also goes around the house and does the low hanging fruit. So they actually will put window stripping up. They will do, you know, sort of making sure you have a good tight air seal from the outside to the basement, making sure you have a really good air seal up to an unfinished attic. So they're not going to blow in insulation, but they will do low cost, immediate, a few hours of work, actually doing air sealing work at the same time that they're doing the blower door, and they do the blower door before and after. And so you can see the improvement in the blower door. And it's sort of like it's like at the Island Institute, we used to call it the kind of intro drug to people then wanting to do a whole bunch more of the bigger projects like the insulation, which is so much more expensive and does involve $1,000 ticket items, which even if the town is going to double an efficiency main incentive, it's still just big dollars and scary for people. But that initial $400 of work feels to me
think
like
that's a
maybe
great
a
idea.
piece to do after the window inserts.
I think that's a great idea. I wonder if Brian and you can get together and create that sort of what we would propose and how much it would cost. So what can we say? Because we don't want to say in the initial PR, well, depending on how much you have, how much money you have, is it may be cheaper for you or not. As Mark points out, that gets really complicated really fast. But I would like to have, I think that 2 elements of a phase 1 program of energy audit and window dressers type approach would be great. And maybe we can look into that. It would be important to know what the cost would be. And then we could propose to the town that the town foot that bill, depending. Brian, what do you think? Jeremy?
Well, I can weigh in briefly about the air sealing only. We attempted to do that some years back, and I know my company is not geared up for projects of that size. Coming in to do $600, one day air sealing work. It's just not the business model that we have. I don't know. I'd have to talk to Paul and Matt up at Penobscot, but I'm pretty sure that's not their business model. And I'm quite sure that Bo Jesperson, it's not his over at the Breathable Home. So that's 3 firms that I think would not, unfortunately, find it attractive to do that work, simply because it just, you can't stack up enough of them to keep crews and equipment and so forth busy. That's great for someone. And Heather, I think you guys had some very good success with, I can't think of the guy's name.
Keith McPherson, is that right?
Yeah, Keith McPherson. And, he was it was a guy with a pickup truck, and he may have had an assistant. I'm not quite sure. That worked great for that type of contractor. There are very few of those left. There was a guy, Paul, Prudhomme or something, who was in Owl's Head that we had trained years ago. He's gone out of business. There's a tremendous number of these folks that have gone out of that business because they can't make a living at it. So that's the unfortunate hard reality of that model. And so it may sound like a great idea, but it may be impractical because there may be no one to do it. And that would be my fear and concern. That said, Heather is absolutely right. It's great. It's a good gateway into possibly doing, more substantial work. Again, I think if there's someone who's interested and able to do those small one-offs, fantastic. We should, incentivize them to do it. The incentive is already pretty good. It costs a low-income homeowner $100 to get $600 worth of work done. That's already, pretty rich, so to speak, in terms of. Yes, with once if you're low income qualified, I believe that's the way it's currently working. Again, we don't do the.
You don't even need to be low income qualified for that. Anybody can get that.
Well, for 400, you get the 400 back, so then it would cost you 200. But the low income historically has been to knock that from that level, even further down to $50 or $100. I know some people that were participating in the program back in the day when it was almost free, they'd show up to people's houses to do the work, and the people weren't there, and they called up and said, yeah, I decided I was doing something else today, sorry. And they were kind of left holding the bag because they weren't investing much, so they weren't all that concerned about being there the day that the work was getting done. Again, I'm sort of telling the other side of the coin kind of perspective, with that. But again, I think if Camden can just the simple thing is just double the incentives if that's the goal for a certain level of income. Let the private marketplace figure out who those individuals are, market to them, get them on board. And if each of us, we can circulate that list that Caitlin and Jeremy's office can create very quickly. You can see, is there anybody that you know that you can call and say, hey, I'm on the Energy Commission, we've got a brand new program. Can I meet you for coffee and tell you about this? Or can we set up a Zoom and tell you about it? This is a great thing. I've done work at my house. I'd like to, let you know about this wonderful opportunity.
Anita, as someone that's been trying to get something like this going for a while now, I really like the approach Brian's talking about. And I appreciate Mark of getting some meat on the bones, getting something done. I would recommend, Mark and everyone else, that you kind of do this in a phase thing and go to the select board next week and talk about, all right, we're going to reach out to, and I'll call Eric Evans tomorrow, and I'll call Laura Heaton, or Seaton is her name, at Window Dressers, and see really what they can scale up to, if possible, to help the town do this. But we'll do the window inserts, hopefully, and that we're trying to we're going to come up with a plan, education plan, to educate folks and tell them we've got incentives. Tell them about these states' incentives, because it's just not about the low income folks. It's about everyone. When we're talking about the global covenant of mayors and what the town needs to do, the watershed school, and everyone's saying the town needs to do this. Well, the town is much bigger than the town, right? It's everyone. It's the businesses. It's the homeowners. Businesses need to know that there are incentives out there. All the homeowners need to know that there are incentives out there. They may not know. So I would like the Energy Committee to spread that word that to business owners, to all the residences, property owners, that there are programs out there. Please think about it. And oh, by the way, we're going to help you if you need some help. And just keep it that simple. Because I think Brian's right. I think those firms that are aware of this program are going to do their own due diligence to see what they can get in town and try to market and cater to those folks, because it's work and the town is invested in it. That's what I'd like to see, Anita, is just try to go to the board on Tuesday with that, and that you guys are just going to try to refine that over the next couple of weeks on what that means. And then and I think the select board will then say, thank you, great. You guys do it, move forward. We don't need to hear exactly every little piece of your program or what it is. I think they're going to be supportive of the idea. And maybe we'll hear some good feedback and be able to, tweak what we're thinking a little bit. But overall, I think that's what it should be. A phase one, help people get window dresser inserts. Phase two is, and I think phase two should happen right off the bat. I think it's education. Because again, businesses need to do their part, homeowners need to do their part. Then we'll do our part with window dressers, and we'll do our part by trying to incentivize by doubling the incentives for people that need it. And just keep it at that. That's how I'd like to see this, because we have to get bang for the buck on this. And I appreciate the window dresser insert thing, but when we see homes, we've got people are putting them up. I had them. I still have them. You put them up in your window, but, oh, I didn't seal my ceiling, or my attic's not sealed. So yeah, it's great. I'm not feeling that draft come in that wall anymore. Or maybe sometimes it's even sucking harder now. So we need to really air seal. It's kind of a holistic approach that I think everyone understands that it has to be. But we'll start with window dressers, and we'll just encourage, we'll educate, window dress, and we'll incentivize. I think that's how.
So, it occurs to me that we have plenty of trailers in our town.
Yeah.
And I would think that each of those is worth less than $130,000, especially if they're renting the land. Brian or whoever else can speak to this. Do all these options and possibilities apply as well to trailers, or are they particularly egregiously bad typically in their energy use? And is there anything we need? I mean, is there any reason why we shouldn't go and knock on all the doors of all the trailers we find in town?
So I can address, the general condition of trailers. Trailers, it's not uncommon to find a double wide trailer, or not even double wide, a single width trailer that's using over 1,000 gallons of oil a year, which is, as much as you would use in a 2,500 square foot home or larger. They are egregiously uncomfortable and energy hogs because they're just, it's a trailer, not a real house. There's not enough space to have them well insulated. The belly of the trailers are always a nightmare because everybody who's come in to do wiring, cable TV to a plumber doing something, they've all cut into that and damaged it. It's not a very durable system. They're challenging to work on, and because of that, they're relatively expensive to fix because the substrates are not amenable to a lot of traditional fixes. There's not a lot of solid wood to attach to, and the wood that's there is very thin. So they present particular challenges. There are phenomenal opportunities, and I'm not sure how many of the trailers that are here are owned by the occupants versus how many of them are rented. But again, Jeremy's staff can figure that out very quickly for us, I'm sure, by searching the Vision, the ArcGIS database of appraisal data for all the residences in town.
I did get, and just since we're talking about income qualifying, I do have Janice developed a list for me of folks that have received general assistance or assistance from trust fund committees in the past. So I do have a list going, and Caitlin has generated a list for me. So we do have a list of, I think, about 50 or so properties in town that would qualify right off the bat. And, I think trying to reach out to those folks right off the bat, along with window dresser or window inserts, reaching out to Eric Evans, seeing what he can do for us. But again, get the education program going and then reach out to those 50 or so right off the bat, because we can help them tomorrow. I mean, obviously they got to be on board and they have to have some skin in the game too. Maybe, this incentive will say, yeah, make them say, yeah, let's do this right now. And again, the trust fund committee can determine however they feel like what kind of funds they want to be able to give to somebody. It's not just that we're going to say limit it to, that's our idea. That's our idea, right? That we're going to say we're going to double the incentives. But again, we've spent $10,000 before plus putting in a septic system that was posing a significant problem. So the town has funds, and we may determine that someone's home, once Evergreen or Penobscot or Breathable Home goes in and does an energy audit and really sees what's going on, they may say, gosh, it's horrible. They need X, Y, and Z, or there's electrical issues, or there's, other issues, carbon monoxide issues with their heating source that we can then also assist. I mean, we have the flexibility with these funds. So I'd like to try to keep it as open as possible, but I think we're all kind of at the same place. If we can just try to do a draft, Anita, for the select board for Tuesday.
Okay, Beatty, did you have something you wanted to add?
Oh, well, I just wanted to say back when we were doing green sneakers and doing amateur audits, it was years and years ago, I have a friend who they summered in a trailer and he gradually winterized it over time. And I think that Brian's right. It really is expensive, but there are examples of things that people do with trailers that help a lot.
I appreciate that. I'm going to put on my code hat here. So this is a big issue that I've dealt with for years when people start altering a mobile home. A mobile home is a mobile home. It's certified in the factory. It's got a HUD sticker on it. As soon as a homeowner starts tweaking with that, tearing apart walls, everything else, everything's kind of off it's no longer a HUD home. And you're required to either have that be a HUD home, or it needs to be a modular or a stick-built home and comply with the codes. So people, I want to encourage people to start doing certain things, because technically us as code officials need to make them hire a engineer, stamp a plan on whatever change they're making to that mobile home, because they're taking it out of that HUD sticker, HUD permitted, HUD inspected mobile home, becoming it's a different animal. And I appreciate it. I get nervous about tweaking mobile homes a lot.
So that's a real hurdle for anybody in a trailer. They basically can't do it.
Right. It is a hurdle.
I mean, secretly they could, but they can't do it. Wow.
That's terrible. It's good to know, Jeremy. Thank you for that input.
Thank you.
Does that sound like a plan?
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
Anita, if you need help with language, I'm happy to try to help, although I think Brian is probably more helpful, but I can volunteer myself. I can't volunteer Brian.
And just so you know, for the agenda, I mean, they want, the agenda gets put together. It's a weird week because it's the holiday week. So generally, I think they're probably going to be looking at Wednesday to put something on the agenda. But probably by Friday, we would need something to put in the packet for the select board packet Friday or Monday at the latest, I think. I think we could do something on Monday, Anita.
I don't see how, I mean, at least from my point of view, I can't, I'm gonna be gone.
A quick memo. Maybe I could draft something, or Brian or Heather, maybe Heather, I don't know, based on this little conversation, a little summary, and maybe I can assist adding something to it, give it a little more, I don't know. I think we could get a little memo together by Monday
Okay.
to the select board.
So if you would put something that would satisfy the select board to have something to talk around and run it by those of us who are interested, I'd be interested. Sarah sounds interested. Heather sounds interested. And where did she go? Yeah, Heather. Heather, your box moved and then suddenly you were gone and there you are. Yeah.
Does that sound good? I'm going to try to draft something. I mean, I'm trying to give you guys a little work too, but I can draft. I mean, it's going to be a brief memo. And Anita, maybe I mean, I think you should be there as chair to talk to them, but I think you and I could probably, do that pretty well on Tuesday. I can draft a little memo if you'd like and share it with you all.
That's fine. Anybody else who wants to go, there's no reason they can't also join in the fun of the select board discussion. You have to let Janice know you want the link for it. I assume it's on Zoom.
It is. You may not get a draft until Wednesday afternoon or evening from me.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, and
Do you wanna give us
I'm happy to take a look at that draft as well, if that's helpful.
I'll send it around.
And
Okay.
do you want to give us an update on the Knox County Airport located solar that Camden had expressed interest in?
Sure.
Jeremy?
We still have that interest, and Revision had got that project from the county, and I have not heard anything from Revision yet on what they're going to be able to offer communities to buy in. So I don't know. I'll reach back out to the Revision folks. Heather, I don't know if you can make that connection or maybe push them a little bit. I don't know. This is something we have talked with Revision about initially. Initially, it started with Knox County. I had multiple conversation with Jeremy at Knox County Airport. And at the time, they were working between the two firms, looking at the two firms who were going to get it. And then Revision got it. And according to Jeremy, Revision's working on what they need to, how they're going to make this work. And I had a conversation with Anita today. I got to believe it's probably far more complicated than we all think to make something like that happen and to bring in multiple entities to be involved and what the rates will be and all that. We had seen the initial, what they had offered to the county and what that was going to look like, but I haven't seen anything since. I can reach out to them, but if you want to just give them an initial push, you can. Maybe copy me on an email or something, Heather, if you don't mind. We're just looking, I think we're looking to tie into that system that they're going to be installing. We have other options out there, and those are waiting in the wings. We were kind of hoping to be a little more local right here in Knox County, and that's kind of where we are now. So we're just kind of waiting for what Revision's going to be able to do.
Okay, well, I will definitely find out tomorrow who at Revision, is working on putting together the load for that project in addition to the airport load, and make sure to make that connection and see if we can get that moving.
Yeah, I mean, it's only been a month since they've got that contract with them, right? I mean, so things do take time, and they don't happen overnight.
Jeremy, is the concept of expanding solar on the Sagamore Farm site in that quote meadow unquote off the table at this point, or is there some reason we cannot do that?
From my perspective, it's kind of off the table. However, I just say that because the town has asked me to, and it's about ready to be released, a request for expressions of interest for the property at Sagamore Farm. And right now we have one legal access to Sagamore Farm property that's up the Sagamore Farm Road, which gets up to a wetland, pretty significant wetland up at the top of the hill. Thankfully, it's not a vernal pool, a significant wildlife habitat vernal pool. So we'll be able to enter over there, but we do have access easement over Chip Late's property to the solar farm for installation and maintenance of the solar farm. For the time being, I would like to see what we get back, because if someone is going to try to take advantage of that area for access, I don't want to necessarily limit the potential development opportunities and options at Sagamore Farm with having a solar farm there if we can just tie into another solar farm somewhere else. There's no reason in my mind to take up land in Camden for a solar farm if we can buy into one that is already permitted or close to being permitted and easy to tie into, and it's not long term on our property, and we have the ability to do something else with Sagamore Farm. I know there's a lot of people have a lot of passion. Some people have a lot of passion about Sagamore Farm. I don't know if people are aware, but the select board has asked me to do a request for expressions of interest. There are a handful of entities that do have some interest in the Sagamore Farm property. And I think at least one of them would be very compatible with solar. So they may do some solar on their own. So I would like to let that process play out, Anita.
Okay. And regarding the street lights, we talked about having a dimmable system that would reduce the output of the street light in the late hours of the night and wee hours of the morning. We also talked about the potential for removing lights that folks don't want. And is there any reason we can't proceed with that, Mark?
I can talk. I asked Audra about that earlier today. Dave St. Laurent has been dealing with any issues that come up with the streetlights. And he's talked to about 20 residents so far. And he has adjusted the lights, and they also have put up some shields to protect people in some cases. So if anybody has any issues, Dave St. Laurent is the person that's dealing with it, and he's been dealing with it all along for about 20 residents so far. So that's where people can go if they have issues.
So I would like our brochure to relate to energy more broadly than making homes more efficient. And I would like to include the fact that people can contact Dave St. Laurent if they have a concern about the street light in their area and would like it dimmed or shielded. That sound good?
Yeah, we should get which number they want to, or which address they want the contact information to go to. But yeah, absolutely.
Thank you. Good. there anything else that we haven't covered? We haven't covered the sustainability intern. Jeremy, you still feel that you could field all this work yourself?
Well, yeah, let me just touch base before I get off of here. Yeah, I think I think right now we're probably in a good place. I'm looking forward to having this conversation with Watershed School tomorrow and their teacher, and the intern that they have. I'm hopeful that this can kind of be a every year thing, with them. We'll see how that rolls. But I would like to be intimately involved, in it. You know, they're the school that got us, you know, signed into the Global Covenant of Mayors. They've got an active environment and climate change, curriculum over there. It makes a lot of sense, to just kind of keep that going, and I'd like to take advantage of it, especially a college intern from College of the Atlantic. I'm looking forward to working with her. Again, we had one from Bowdoin this summer. I think that went very well, and we could probably work with that again next year, Anita. So right now, I think we're probably in a good place. I did hire a new we have a new code officer on staff. He started today. So that was a huge thing for me. I mean, a lot got off my plate today.
Who's that?
I've been stretched everywhere. His name is Wyatt Philbrook. He lives in Rockport. He was a code officer down in Rockland. He used to work for the Vineyard, for Bettina at the Vineyard, for a long time. He was operations and facilities and project manager there. So he's a really good guy, young guy, smart, engaged. He's a kind guy, and just kind of, it's hard to find good code officials, and I think we found a good one. And
Good. Wonderful. Okay, and does anybody have any interest in putting together an article sometime in the next month?
Anita, I need to roll if that's okay.
I kind of am gonna have to leave too. It's getting-
Yeah. Don't worry, we're closing up. I just wanted to ask that one question. You're interested, Sarah?
I don't know what I would need to know what we're talking about, what an article you mean. I mean, I don't know, probably, possibly, but I don't, I don't know. And I feel that an article for what? A brochure of what? I don't know what you're referring to.
It's a newspaper article about the efforts that the town is pursuing.
Oh,
And
you mean a press release, in effect,
yeah,
because you'd want it in all the papers, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I can I can work on a press release at a certain point, yes.
Thank you. Wonderful.
Yeah.
Okay. Does anyone move to adjourn? Jeremy?
I move to adjourn.
All right, Brian. Second? No seconds? Sarah probably seconds. I second. Okay, all in
I saw
favor?
Sarah wave.
Very efficient.